Day, ABC TV and ABC iView. Mysterious, suspenseful, thrilling. New drama on ABC iView.
Who are you?
I'm a bad person who's trying to be good.
What you did dishonors all cops.
When a man is prey to his emotions, he is not his own master.
There's been a report of inappropriate behavior.
This life, this is all we need. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone.
To stream the best drama for free, log in to ABC iView.
Tracy and I, we're building a future.
We're selling an idea of summers that never end.
The company is called Lightwave, and we're making board shorts.
It is my company, Trotter.
Snapper's building an empire.
Wait, this isn't what I came for.
I'm coming home to you tonight.
When did all this stop being fun?
Barons starts Sunday on ABC or log in to ABC iView.
Anzac Day, commemorate with us. Tune in from 4:30 for a full day's coverage, starting with the dawn service live from Sydney. Then we cross to the Australian War Memorial in Canberra, followed by a news breakfast special and the marches from your state capital. Later, we remember the fallen.
Whose spirit will forever be part of Australia's identity.
As we travel to Gallipoli and Villers-Bretonneux. Anzac Day, across the ABC.
Scott Morrison rejects claims he's bungled Australia's security relationship with Solomon Islands.
The Prime Minister of Solomon Islands has made it very clear that they are not accepting of any base in the Solomon Islands.
This represents the worst failure for Australian foreign policy in the Pacific since the end of World War II.
A major overhaul of the COVID restrictions in New South Wales, with close contact isolation rules scrapped. Former elite child gymnasts call for justice, saying the findings of an investigation into their abuse don't go far enough. And an unexpected end to a hot air balloon ride in Melbourne's suburbs. This is ABC Late News. Hello, I'm Tyne Logan. Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese have faced off in their first televised debate of the election campaign. Housing affordability, aged care and an anti-corruption commission were among other issues discussed, with the leaders at one stage clashing on boat turnbacks and offshore detention.
When you were Deputy Prime Minister, why didn't you support turnbacks then?
You weren't proposing.
No,
you were not proposing.
Well, I'm sorry, we were. It was our policy.
You were not
Turnbacks were our policy before the 2013 election. I was the Shadow Immigration Minister. I designed the policy. So you were on the National Security Committee, I think for the first time at that time. And so why did you not support turnbacks?
I was on the National Security Committee. We had established offshore processing just in 2013, when I became Deputy Prime Minister. That was the first step. That was the first step.
So you were going to do turnbacks?
No. No, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I just wanted to be clear.
But why is it, Scott, that you're always looking for a division, not looking for
No, I'm just
agreement.
looking for accuracy and the truth.
Well, the truth is we support boat turnbacks.
But you didn't when you were Deputy Prime Minister, and the boats were coming at 30 and 40 a week.
And we'll do it. What we did was we established offshore processing.
The audience of 100 undecided voters in that Sky News audience voted Anthony Albanese had won the debate. Meanwhile, a contentious pact signed between Solomon Islands and China took centre stage in the campaign after the Pacific nation rebuffed pleas from Australia not to proceed with the deal. Officials fear the deal could eventually see Beijing establish a military presence less than 2,000 kilometres from the Queensland coast. Labor says it's a strategic disaster and Scott Morrison has to take responsibility. Here's Foreign Affairs reporter Stephen Jedgetts.
Outside the People's Parliament, security tightens. Inside, a defiant Prime Minister lays out a new vision.
We entered into an arrangement with China with our eyes wide open.
Manasseh Sogavare has ignored warnings from Australian spy chiefs and politicians alike, signing a security agreement which could reshape the strategic landscape well beyond Honiara. The capital has been rocked by successive riots over the years, and the Prime Minister thinks China can help stop future unrest.
We intend to beef up and strengthen our police capability and capacity to deal with any future instability by properly equipping our police.
The announcement came out of the blue, not in Solomon Islands, but in Beijing, where a foreign ministry official revealed the deal was done.
China has always been a builder of peace and a promoter of stability in the South Pacific region.
The final text remains secret, but a leaked draft goes well beyond police cooperation, establishing a framework for Chinese troops to enter and vessels to dock.
This represents the worst failure for Australian foreign policy in the Pacific since the end of World War II.
I am extremely disappointed in Australia. The Australian government has been too soft on this issue. And too trusting.
Scott Morrison believes trying to heavy Solomon Islands would have been fruitless.
I'm not going to act like former administrations that treated the Pacific like some extension of Australia. The Pacific Islands are very sensitive to that.
Manasseh Sogavare also insists a Chinese military base is off the table, and Mr Morrison is taking that promise at face value.
They are not accepting of any base in the Solomon Islands. They are not. So that is a false claim.
His deputy, not so trusting.
We don't want our own little Cuba off our coast.
There's real frustration in Canberra that Honiara has taken this step, particularly as Australia's poured billions into Solomon Islands over the decades to help stabilise it and then to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. But anger at supposed ingratitude is no substitute for strategy, and whoever wins the next federal election will face a much more intense battle.
Pause to domestic campaigning, with both leaders slugging it out over workplace laws and wages.
There's no need to yell.
Feeling the heat.
So why don't we all just take the temperature down?
The Prime Minister forced onto the back foot, with the Solomons injecting foreign policy into the domestic fight.
Is it a failure of your Pacific Step Up program?
No, I think no.
This is a massive foreign policy failure. How does he go?
Badly. In Queensland, the Labor leader relished a fight on workers' wages, with the coalition planning to resurrect a raft of workplace changes rejected by the Parliament.
It had wage cuts in black and white.
Just sanitise.
The government says its aim was to simplify a diabolically complicated system by extending Greenfield's pay deals for the life of a major project, crunching the more than 100 awards and suspending the Better Off Overall test.
Here we go.
Giving companies the power to strike pay deals that could leave some workers worse off.
If you're someone working, say, in retail as a night manager, $10,000 a year can be up for grabs as a pay cut.
But according to the PM, that part is dead.
Don't push that button. I'm not surprised that there's another scare campaign from Labor.
Labor says its policies will create better paid, more secure jobs by enshrining job security as an objective of workplace laws, forcing employers to offer casual workers a permanent job and making entitlements portable. But nowhere are the differences more stark than in the understaffed aged care sector, with Labor promising to fully fund any wage rise awarded by the independent umpire.
Workers are leaving the sector.
One candidate who won't be leaving this contest is Catherine Deeves, the Prime Minister's pick in the once blue ribbon seat of Warringah.
Others might want to cancel her, but I'm not going to have a partnership with them.
Oh, she'll be right. A gender warrior, she's been forced to apologise for transphobic comments she's made.
Australians are getting pretty fed up with having to walk on eggshells every day because they may or may not say something one day that's going to upset someone.
It's irked a few Liberals and taken a few days, but the reason for Scott Morrison's unswerving support for his Warringah candidate is now clear. She's become his chosen champion against progressive political correctness. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Guide Dogs Victoria says it's launched an internal investigation after its chief executive officer appeared in election campaign material without the board's knowledge. There's concern the political endorsement of the Treasurer by Karen Hayes could breach regulations governing charities.
It's the video that has a charity in the doghouse. The head of Guide Dogs Victoria declaring her support for Josh Frydenberg's bid to retain the Inner Melbourne seat of Kooyong.
Josh has been an amazing supporter of Guide Dogs Victoria for over 10 years.
The clip was posted on Mr Frydenberg's Facebook page yesterday. Flyers have also appeared in letterboxes around the electorate, featuring a guide dog and Karen Hayes' job title, a potential breach of charity regulations that ban the endorsement of political candidates.
You may put your registration at risk. I could take you off the register. You lose your taxation advantages.
Guide Dogs Victoria says it's not a political organisation and didn't know Miss Hayes would appear in the ads. It says it's launched an internal investigation and requested the campaign material be removed. Miss Hayes appeared in a similar video before the last election.
He genuinely cares for people.
And she's not the only one. Another charity CEO, the Inclusion Foundation's Kate Sayers, has also endorsed the Treasurer online and in print material. Kooyong has become an increasingly tight contest for the Treasurer. The once safe seat is now a battleground with a well-funded challenge by independent candidate Dr Monique Ryan.
It's really disappointing to see charities which have received federal funding spruiking for the local member. And that's something that has really resulted in a lot of outrage from the community. People are really unhappy about it.
The Treasurer says no regulations have been breached.
These community organisations are ones that I've worked with over a long period of time, and they're simply reflecting that work that I have done with them.
Christian Silva, ABC News, Melbourne.
From Friday night, close contacts in New South Wales will no longer have to isolate for 7 days. The state's chief health officer says the Omicron peak has passed and the time is right for a further easing of restrictions.
Everyone has been feeling the pain of staff shortages, but there's relief on the way.
I do see it as a milestone day.
Come 6 p.m. on Friday, COVID close contacts will no longer have to isolate for 7 days.
This is a part of our transition. We will be simplifying rules. This is the first step.
Close contacts will still have to take daily rapid antigen tests, work from home where possible, and wear face masks indoors. They'll also have to stay away from hospitals and aged care settings.
We think it's a sensible decision by government. Some families were having to self-isolate 3 and 4 times in a 4-month period.
I used to have 4 chefs. I'm left with only 1 right now. I'm working in the kitchen. I've never worked in the kitchen for the last 15 years.
Fortunes may be about to change for businesses on this popular restaurant strip. They're hoping these rule changes will make it easier to fill gaps on the roster and operate at full capacity.
Staff will be able to return, plus, for example, the patrons, they will also be able to come and eat and stuff like that. You know, it's a chain reaction.
But some are warning the chain reaction works both ways.
Your chance of getting COVID if you have a household contact is 25 to 50%. We're not going to be controlling transmission of COVID anymore.
Daily case numbers are now a quarter of what they were at the height of the Omicron outbreak in January.
I can confirm that we are over that peak in that BA2 wave, but the plateau is quite a flat one and the decline is quite slow.
Even so, vaccine mandates in key workforces will no longer be the default.
What we will see across the board here is a risk-based assessment that will take place as we move away from public health orders in the main.
We're calling on the government to run a very comprehensive public awareness campaign about the importance of booster shots.
A much-needed boost in more ways than one. Cecilia Connell, ABC News, Sydney.
In Victoria, after 2 years, the strict rules on how people live, work and socialise will also be scrapped. And while most business groups are celebrating, some health experts are still worried.
For months, mask mandates have made it hard for Madeline Dodd to provide service with a smile. She's thrilled the rules are being relaxed.
It's nice to be able to actually smile at people when they come in and actually see my smile, and I will be wearing lipstick as soon as I can.
It's relief for Geelong publican Andrew Clark too.
There we go, boys. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
His staff have been abused for checking vaccine certificates.
It's long overdue to get hospitality back on its feet. It's been a real hindrance to us and very hard on the staff.
Today is a significant day for all Victorians, not a wholesale change but an appropriate next step.
Close contacts like Erin Camilleri, whose son picked up COVID at school camp, will no longer have to isolate if they're symptom-free.
After 2 years of pretty much non-stop lockdowns and being stuck at home, it was really full on to think, oh, here we go again.
Close contacts will need to do regular tests and wear masks indoors. But masks won't be required for many workers, patrons at major events or in schools and childcare.
I just think it got to a point where it was fairly ridiculous that the kids were still wearing masks when everything else was open. The kids and the parents could go and hang out on weekends.
While unvaccinated patrons can return to venues, they can't return to all workplaces just yet.
I've made a recommendation of a transition out of those mandates, but they need to be worked through industry by industry.
You cannot trust the government not to put more restrictions in place and lock us down again.
I think it's just part of living with COVID.
It's not good. There's still COVID everywhere.
Experts back easing vaccine mandates, but some are concerned about the change to close contact rules.
I think that's risky, and that could actually have more harm for businesses than good. They could be infectious while they don't have any symptoms, and that means they can infect their fellow workers.
Being short-staffed has been very demanding on a lot of staff that didn't have to isolate and work extra hours, and the business is trying to stay afloat, but we got through.
We're entering a more stable period, but we shouldn't sit on our hands.
Keeping everyone safe is still really important, so I guess we'll see how it goes.
And as winter comes, we're being reminded to get another jab, this time for the flu.
Didn't feel a thing.
Richard Willingham, ABC News, Melbourne.
Former elite child gymnasts say an investigation which found they should receive an apology for past abuse doesn't go far enough. The women who took part in the Western Australian Institute of Sport program want a fresh investigation and are calling for the people involved in the program to be held to account.
These women are united by their shared trauma and their desire for justice. Sport Integrity Australia has handed down the long-awaited result of its investigation into the treatment of former elite child gymnasts at the hands of coaches and staff in Western Australia. The report found it was reasonably likely some gymnasts suffered abuse or harm, including verbal and physical abuse, unnecessary skin fold testing, weight shaming and being expected to compete with injuries. It also found the program did not adequately protect participants. The WA Institute of Sport says it will adopt the report's recommendations, which include a new complaints procedure, explicit policies to protect children, embedding athlete welfare into programs and an apology.
To the participants who reported such distressing experiences, we have listened to you. We are sorry that your experiences were painful rather than enjoyable, and we apologise that elements of the WASTE program failed you.
But the women left with psychological and physical scars say that doesn't go far enough, and they want the state government to intervene.
An independent investigation into the abuse at WASTE is absolutely critical to ensure that those who facilitated the abuse, engaged in the abuse, or turned a blind eye to the abuse are held to account.
And I think the state government needs to step up and review WASTE as an organisation.
A spokeswoman for Sports Minister David Templeman said he would meet the women to discuss possible further action. Rebecca Trigger, ABC News.
A hot air balloon has narrowly avoided disaster, making an emergency landing in a suburban Melbourne street. 12 passengers and a pilot were on board when the balloon began to malfunction, crashing into rooftops as it came down.
For 10 terrifying minutes, these passengers knew they wouldn't be making a normal landing.
We okay?
Yep.
That's good.
Hitting 2 rooftops as their balloon lost height.
There goes that guy's handiwork on the house.
I know! It finally came down for good at an apartment block in Elwood.
Okay, babe? Babe, you okay?
I was shaking and crying.
We were all shaking a little bit and we were shoulder to shoulder and just hanging on. Some people got down really low in the basket. I kept my head up because I wanted to see where we were landing. So it was a bit scary.
It's a bit embarrassing because it's balloons draping over a building, but at least we put everybody safely on the ground.
The flight started in Royal Park. Less than an hour later, the balloon started losing height.
That's where we should be.
Pilot Nick Brow burned through the fuel, trying to stay aloft.
I had a malfunction in one of the valves that releases air from the top of the balloon, so I decided to break away from the rest of the balloons that we're going down towards Moorabbin, and I was trying to bring it down and safely in the first possible place.
The hot air balloon crashed through several tree branches and making this emergency landing, the pilot managing to avoid nearby power lines. Now, when he realised something was going wrong, he was aiming for the beach, which is just a couple of 100 metres down the road.
I heard all like fire engine, cops, and what's this? And looked out the window, there's a hot air balloon, just on the apartments.
I just thought, oh my goodness, this is like a movie. It's like a UFO at your window because it just went right across the window.
It's not something that happens on a daily basis, let's put it that way.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau is investigating the flight that was supposed to be an 18th birthday celebration for Zoe Dewacki.
It was very memorable. Got a really good story to tell now.
So, is this the last time they'll go up and away?
The kids want to do it again, the wife doesn't. So I better go up there with the kids. But first of all, I'll get a Tats Lotto ticket today.
Sarah Jane Bell, ABC News, Melbourne.
Volodymyr Zelensky has vowed Ukraine will fight for every metre of its land as Russia mounts an offensive to take the eastern Donbass region. Multiple cities across the east are under attack, and Moscow has given the besieged port city of Mariupol another ultimatum for surrender. The ABC's Sean Rubenstein-Dunlop reports from the capital, Kyiv.
Ukrainian soldiers rushed to deliver first aid in Kramatorsk, just one of Ukraine's eastern cities under deadly attack, as Russia pushes on with its full-scale offensive to take the Donbass region. Almost 70% of Kramatorsk's residents have fled. For those who remain, it may be too late to leave.
Why am I staying? Because it's my hometown. I was born here. My parents are buried here.
Russia's tactics are brutal. Bodies are left strewn in the streets of Kharkiv.
He worked in security not far from here. The shelling started and everyone fled. When we came out here, the old man was already dead.
In the besieged city of Mariupol, time is running out for the remaining Ukrainian troops holed up in a steelworks plant that's become a final stronghold.
We might only have a few days or even hours remaining. Enemy forces are 10 times bigger than ours.
Russia has given them another ultimatum to surrender, but like previous ones, it's been ignored. More than 1,000 civilians are believed to be taking shelter inside.
Get us out of here, we beg you. We've already cried out all the tears we have. We can't cry anymore.
Volunteers are frantically working to get vulnerable civilians out of the Donbass. But after 2 grinding months of this war and the recent lull in fighting, some are also heading east here through Kyiv. In recent days, there were more people entering the country than leaving.
I'd like to be with my family and to wait for my husband who's on the front line. I'd like to be in my town and not in someone else's place. The fighting is still on and it's unsafe there, but my soul strives to be at home. Most of all, I want peace.
Putting on a brave face as Ukraine enters the next phase of this vicious war. Sean Rubenstein-Dunlop, ABC News, Kyiv.
The British Prime Minister has apologised to Parliament for attending an illegal party during lockdown, saying he didn't knowingly break the rules he had set. In his first statement to the House of Commons since being fined for breaching the lockdown, Boris Johnson acknowledged the public had the right to expect better, but he brushed off calls to resign.
It did not occur to me then or subsequently that a gathering in the Cabinet room just before a vital meeting on COVID strategy could amount to a breach of the rules. I repeat, that was my mistake, and I apologise for it unreservedly.
What a joke. Even now,
as the latest mealy-mouthed apology stumbles out of one side of his mouth, a new set of deflections and distortions pour from the other.
MPs will vote this week on whether Mr Johnson should be investigated for allegedly misleading Parliament. The AFL's longest-serving umpire has backed the league's crackdown on player dissent. The issue has been simmering since the opening game of the season, but flared up during round 5 when players were penalised for visibly expressing frustration over umpires' decisions.
Jeff Mark. And 50. Just to really rub salt into the wound.
In a crucial stage of Monday's thriller between Hawthorn and Geelong, the umpire blew his whistle for dissent. Their interpretation of the rule drew the ire of players and the public alike, prompting the AFL to double down.
Some players may think, what's the level of dissent that we're allowed to produce? And the answer to that is none.
I thought it was quite timely that Brad did come out and address the media.
Shane McInerney umpired 502 games across 25 years, retiring in 2019.
It's the theatrics that seek to take away the umpire's authority and seems to diminish his responsibility in that role.
McInerney believes there's been some inconsistency from umpires and that's led to confusion.
At the end of the day, there is no acceptable level of dissent.
The players will have a handle on it. The coaches pretty clearly say, you know, we know what to expect, but it's the media, guys commentating games of football that seem to have a big issue with it, and then that goes into the public forum.
The AFL says abuse is a major contributor to the alarming shortage of community umpires.
From those adjusted behaviours that happen at the elite level, that those behaviours then cascade down to the junior level.
We do need, grassroots footy continuing, and young kids wanting to umpire games and feeling that they are respected.
Stamping out disrespect from the top to the bottom. Tom Maddox, ABC News.
Now for a look at weather with Paul Higgins.
Well, a front is spreading showers across Tasmania and a shower or two in Victoria. Cooler southerly winds are going to make their way up the New South Wales coast tomorrow and bring showers, especially to the mid-north coast, and a cooler day for Sydney and Brisbane, but hot in the nation's northwest, and a lot of rain for Queensland's north tropical coast and tablelands and down to Townsville, falls of 400 to 600 millimetres between tomorrow and Monday. Elsewhere in Queensland, showers are possible in the east, spreading to the central and northern interior, mostly sunny elsewhere, and partly cloudy in Brisbane. A few showers along the New South Wales coast and nearby ranges, mostly, of course, as I say, about the mid-north. A few showers in Sydney, in Canberra, partly cloudy. Some morning fog areas in Victoria, a shower or two or drizzle in the south, mainly about the ranges. A grey day in Melbourne with a chance of a shower. Showers over western, southern and central Tasmania will ease, as will the wind. In Hobart, early showers and cold. For South Australia, a shower or two about parts of the southern agricultural area and the west coast, partly cloudy in Adelaide. In the west, light showers along southern coastal districts and the chance of a shower near the Gascoyne coast. In Perth, though, mostly sunny. The chance of a thunderstorm over the far northwest Kimberley and about the Tiwi, far western Daly and northeast Arnhem in the Territory. Darwin will have a partly cloudy day.
And that's ABC Late News. I'm Tyne Logan. Thanks for your company this evening. Good night.
It's on.
For the latest on the federal election, go to ABC News Digital.
Policy announcements and how they impact you.
Profiles of every electorate, including yours.
Anthony Green's guide to the key seats.
You Ask, We Answer is back, and you can see what other Australians are asking.
There's our new Get Ready to Vote checklist, plus live blogs and notifications so you won't miss a thing.
For election news that matters to you, go to abc.net.au/Australia Votes or download the ABC News app.
We can't undo the lies we had to tell, girls.
I'm Finn, Dennis's son.